and then I'll explain. Inshallah, we have a lot of time in this session, so if anyone wants to elongate the break or extend their break, we will try to end this session a little early and give you an opportunity to socialize and have your snacks, inshallah. But I'm going to begin. We had sort of a situation with this session, in that our first presenter, Sister Sana, due to her health condition, she's ill, so she will not be able to present today. So we will have a single presentation, inshallah, and then extended Q&A, an opportunity for you to interact with our beloved guest and actually my host. The first time I got to know Dr. Taha is as his guest, and inshallah ta'ala I'll introduce him, give him an opportunity to give his presentation, and then we'll have a question and answer to follow. So Dr. Taha Burak is a student of sociology. He studied sociology and psychology at the Istanbul University and completed his master's in sociology at the same university. I apologize for my mispronunciation, the TÜBİTAK Master's Scholarship student. He then completed the clinical psychology master's program at Okan University, and his PhD, so that's now Dr. Taha Burak, in clinical psychology at Hasan Koyuncu University, okay, sorry, in 2022. I'm so sorry. If someone did this, with Arabic or Urdu or English, I would try to be as accommodating as, unfortunately my pronunciation, I need to learn Turkish. Between 2010 and 2019, he worked as a clinical psychologist, a psychotherapist in the psychology unit at the Cerrahpaşa faculty of Medicine, Department of Mental Health and Diseases, and since 2018 he has been teaching undergraduate and graduate courses in the psychology departments of Sabahat Zaim University, together with the aforementioned Hasan Koyuncu and Ibn Khaldun University as of 2022, and he serves as a supervisor in clinical psychology. And that is his formal introduction. But in our tradition, we oftentimes will see in the literature that we call the Rijal literature, the prosopography or prosobiographical, sorry, the term is difficult, or narrative biography literature, we find not only sort of technical statements and backgrounds of scholars, but we also find sort of anecdotes. And so one anecdote about Dr. Taha Burak, mashallah, has to do with his character, and it's a very important, I think, aspect of the field that we are discussing, the character of individuals. Mashallah, Dr. Taha has been a wonderful host for me, and mashallah, always exemplified the best of character. And this is one of the things in our tradition that we try to embody, the sort of health and ideals of mental state that we try to help others to achieve. And this is actually quite an important aspect of Islamic psychology, is that the psychologist himself also tries to, and even if they themselves may be suffering from a particular disorder or imbalance, but they try to embody good character. So this is sort of what we call ta'dil of Dr. Taha, that in my experience with him, and not only have I only outwardly seen good, but when I hear his name, it makes me very happy. And it gives me, mashallah, health in my heart. Barakallahu feek.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you so much, your kindness, your hüsnü-zan. Thank you so much. Actually, same feeling with Mevlana Bilal Hoca. I wish my English would be enough to compliment. Alhamdulillah. I am very happy to know each other. Alhamdulillah. And he is also a very nice host. Tekrar hoş geldiniz. Bundan sonra Türkçe devam edeceğim. Şaka yapıyorum tabii. I was joking that I will continue in Turkish, inshallah. Today I will try to make presentation in English, inshallah. I beg your dua. Because in years I didn't do that, but after Human Hoca tell me, please, could you do? I find myself telling that yes, unconsciously. hypnotic approach. So I will try to tell you about our models, our psycho-ontological models and their clinical application. Let's start. And maybe I should tell about İlmün Nefs tradition and also specifically Nursi's İlmün Nefs. And I will tell you about cognitive psychotherapies on OCD and definition of obsession and cognition and limitation of cognitive psychotherapies. And at the end of my speech, I will try to clarify the contribution of our model to contemporary OCD theories and interventions. As all you know, maybe before lots of speech you focus about it, but let me tell again. İlm is a comprehensive term used in science as well as the divine and human knowledge in Islamic tradition. And nefs means self and indicates all human structure in Islamic tradition. The knowledge of ilm nefs is a discipline where Muslim philosophers, medical doctors, Sufis and revivalists created and contributed the knowledge on psychological structure of human. So we had a diagram like this. We try to understand this approach in 4 branches: a medical tradition, philosophical tradition, and Sufi tradition, and revivalist tradition. The difference between this tradition are the part of human they focus on. For example, medical tradition write about temperament, physiology, ethics, and most famous one is, as all you know, Belhi, Mesail Ebdan vel Enfus, include diagnostic criteria and treatment and recommendation for OCD, and they focus on body. Philosophical tradition, they write about cognitive science, metaphysics, ethics, and most famous one is Ibn Sina, and Kitabun Nefs describe the function of the self with a rational approach, and they also focus on mind. And Sufi tradition, they write about religious, spirituality, maybe, similar topics with psychotherapy, not the same. And Ibn Arabi in Futuhat-ı Mekkiye describes the functioning of the self with spiritual approach, and they focus on, especially on heart. But there is an exception, and it is very interesting and important one. There is some alims, or maybe we can call it revivalists. They make the synthesis of all this tradition, and they also focus on body, mind, heart, and spirit. They use maybe I should say, they use contextual understanding about all this stuff. And for example, Imam al-Ghazali, most famous one, in Ihya al-Ulumuddin, described the function of the self with the synthesis of medical, rational, and spiritual approach. So we had another, maybe I should say, understanding frame or paradigm. We call it multidimensional reality theory or multidimensional reality understanding model. As you see, these are the classical tradition of us: tasawwuf, fiqh, kelam, and philosophy and science. And the center we have the Holy Quran. So the Quran reads universe and self and universe reads the Quran. We are trying to hear and understand this truth. So when done with the right methods, it's all a reality refers to correct information of one dimensions. For example, in fiqh, accurate knowledge of sensory world of matter, or in kelam, correct knowledge of the theoretical world of thought, and in tasawwuf, the true knowledge of the spiritual world of the spirit. Yet they compare the representation of the revelation, absolute truth. All it's an effort to approach. maybe I should underline this. All it's an effort to approach. We are responsible for this approach in all areas. So we don't have any, exact information about anything. What we are trying to approach the truth by doing our research or interventions. So if we remember this, Nursi, maybe we can say the last representative of the revivals tradition, who had been educated and taught religious science, classical and modern science. This is a specific alim tradition style in Ottoman. Born in Nurs, Kurdish village at Ottoman state, educated at madrasa, religious science, logic, philosophy, anatomy, mathematics, and physics. And he wrote about all this stuff, logic, mathematics, sociology, psychology, similar topics, and religious science. And his entire collection, as maybe lots of you know. The main thing is, in his epistle, Nursi had underlined the cognitive errors caused by the thought and belief structure of individuals as the primal reasons of their unhappiness, anxiety, and rage. He emphasized specifically the meaning of the components of human structure and its functioning process in detailed way. I will tell about in detailed way, inshallah, I hope so. Today I will focus on treatise of scrupulosity, includes cognitive and behavior intervention for OCD, but there is very important and specific epistles. For example, Epistle of I centers the structure of self and it is relevant perceptual process. We are trying to read and understand it on the topics of, for example, consciousness, of another psychological and psychotherapeutic discussion. Let me come to OCD. As you know, it is very hard for me to read it from English. Buraya kadar anlaştık mı? Sıkıldınız mı acaba? İyi mi? Tamam. İnşallah. Thank you for your humbleness. Şimdi, as you all know, quantum physics, I'm joking, as you all know, OCD is characterized by the presence of obsession and compulsions. And obsessions are recurrent, intrusive, persistent, unwanted thoughts, urges, or images that the person tries to ignore, suppress, or neutralize it. So, when thoughts are recurrent, intrusive, persistent, unwanted, we call it obsession. In cognitive psychotherapy, cognition is verbal or imaginary parts forming the flow of consciousness. So we are together because the important clue is close this discussion. For the cognitive therapies, imaginary part of cognition are called images. Verbal part of cognition are called thoughts. Recurrent, intrusive, persistent, unwanted types of cognition are called obsessive images or thoughts. So it is called obsessive cognition. So for cognitive psychotherapies, let's think about it. Is there any hierarchical difference between thought, image, and urge for responsibility or for the scope of value? So we don't have. Who is going to decide which cognitions are obsessive and which are not, and how? And this is also an important question for our patients too. As you all know, at the first view of CBT models for OCD, the first wave was focused on change dysfunctional behavior, and we have exposure and response prevention. It's golden standard for the interventions. In the second wave, we focus on to change misinterpretation of obsessions. So we are doing cognitive restrictions as an intervention of psychotherapy. But the third wave we should come to accept this experience. So we use detached mindfulness or cognitive diffusion. So both second and third wave of CBT, we tell our patients, do not pay attention to your thoughts. Maybe it is the main axiom of our psychotherapy intervention. Do not pay attention to your thoughts in the case of OCD. But just remember, motto of CBT, watch your thoughts, they become your emotions. Watch your emotions, they become your behaviors. Watch your behaviors, they become your habits. Watch your habits, they become your character. And watch your character, it becomes your destiny. So actually, we tell our patients that watch your thoughts, it become your destiny. But in the case of OCD, we tell them, do not pay attention to your destiny. It means like that. So we have to say, do not pay attention to your thoughts. Isn't this a contradiction? And our patients certainly realize it. These are the objection of my patients to tell me during the psychotherapy, CBT psychotherapies. You taught me the major importance of thought, but now why you are trying to convince me of its ineffectiveness? How do I decide which thought to consider? The difference between thought and obsessions is not clear. Where do these obsessions come from? What is the source of them? It's a big question also. Science don't have answer about it also. Where they come from. Because it is not the case for science. Why do they appear in my mind so frequently? And these are the... So, in our model, we claim that 4T and 3K models will interface with this limitation. As you see, it's a big claim, but inshallah. First, clarification of difference between obsession and normal thoughts, first one. And second, explaining the source of obsessions. And third, explanation of the process of formation of obsessions. So, let's look for first one, clarification of the difference between obsession and normal thoughts. So, as the German style, just begin from the nefs, ene, or self. It is our basic human structure model of ilmin nefs. We have spirit, heart, mind, and body. And we have kuvve-i gadabiye and kuvve-i şehviye. Maybe we can indicate them in body, but we can think them between body and mind. It's also a discussion in Islamic tradition. So they are our basic instincts. Maybe they call it kuvve-i nuzviye, kuvve-i behimiye is similar, but a little bit different with it. So they send their demands by using imagination to the mind. So in mind, we have kuvve-i akliye. It is our power of intellect. They are doing the reasoning process. It is doing the reasoning process. And after our kuvve-i akliye, send it to kalp, heart. Kalp is a very central position in our model. So we have vicdan, conscience, and send, it is information, maybe we call it, or maybe we call it, we should call is inspiration also, to the kalp, heart. Kalp is center of value and commander of our will and place of faith. This is very important to tell kalp, to define its place of faith. It will be very, very important by doing psychotherapy, by doing intervention. Because, let me tell, in modern psychotherapy paradigm, we have two entities, body and mind. If we have problem in body, we don't have any place to go. But if we think it's 3 or 4 different entities, we will have another place to look, to take a distance to our minds. Yani şimdi insanı sadece beden ve zihin olarak da tanımlarsak zihinde bir sorun olduğunda gidecek başka bir yerimiz yok yani. Zihinden ayrış dediğimizde zeki hastalar haklı olarak şu soruyu soruyorlar. Zihinden ayrıştığımda neredeyim ben? Yani zihinden ayrıştığımızda zihne bakan entitenin adı ne acaba? Ya da böyle bir entite var mı? Ya da biz var mı sayıyoruz yani? Eğer bunu kalp üzerinden tanımlarsak ayrışma için doğal bir ontolojik modelimiz olmuş olur. Bu tabii rasyonel yani. Keşfen doğru mudur bilemiyorum. Çok mutluyum şu anda derdimi anlattığım için tekrardan. Anlıyoruz değil mi? Allah razı olsun. Çok teşekkür ederim. Allah eksikliğinizi göstersin. Şimdi the function of kalp, it's very important. Confirmation. Confirmation all this data. And use our free will. And it is decision process, and it is also like this. To come up and to go down. And this is decision-making process, and the other one, and that one, is action process. Kalp take a decision and use mind and body to implement it. And action comes from our body, as you all know. And this is also metaphysical experience, and it is physical experience. Mülk and melekut alem, maybe. But it is not the case for us. And this is our cognitive model. That was our woman structure model, and this is our cognitive model. In Nursi's writing, he called it Dima'daki meratibi ilm. And we translated level of cognition in the brain. But yani, it is discussable. Cognitive theories of ilm nefs. We have mind and heart. And as you see, he tells tahayyül, tasavvur, taakkul, tasdik, izan, iltizam, itikat. As you remember, in cognitive theories, we have two components, images and thoughts. And as you see, we have 7. But what's the importance of these numbers? Actually, in the intervention of OCD, treatment of OCD, we don't need izan, iltizam, itikat. But for one, tahayyül, tasavvur, after years I changed the model, we begin to tell tahayyül, tevehhüm, taakkul, tasdik. Maybe I will tell you in detail. But we can think tahayyül is an imagination, and the process is imagination, and production is image. And tasavvur, detailed imagination, and production is design. Taakkul is reasoning and production is thought. And tasdik, process is confirmation and product is judgment. So, after the confirmation of, after tasdik, after confirmation, it means that our heart accepts it. So, free will can use this information. Are we together now? Şimdi for example, biz bunu Amerika'da sunmuştuk o zaman hamburger oyun. For example, you are hungry now. So you begin to tahayyül and you use imagination. I think not use, the images come from to your mind. As a hamburger, for example. So you begin to think that detailed imagination, yani you are making your tasavvur. So işte we can go somewhere together with my friends and we can eat hamburger. But suddenly you remember that you are in diet, unfortunately. So you begin to make reasoning that should I do this or I shouldn't do this. Which one I should prefer. So you begin to do reasoning. But after that you will take a decision. You can listen your taakkul or you don't have You don't have to, but you can or not. It is just an advice. But after tastic, you will take an action. It is confirmation of art. So action or that one. So how can this model be relation in OCD interventions? Let's think about it. In these classic writings, they tell tahayyül and tasavvur, they do not listen to the faculty of will, and you are not responsible for it. It's very important information. And also it's very interesting. Taakkul and reasoning, sometimes under free will and sometimes not, but you are also not responsible for it too. It's also very interesting information. For example, think about the doubt obsessions. Yani işte dinden çıktım mı çıkmadım mı acaba? For example, I had a patient that he wrote about read about Dolly. Dolly bir ship. There's a ship that make imitation of it. So I mean recreate this Dolly. So he tried to understand. So they recreated it, but the one creator is Allah. So suddenly I lose my faith because he didn't know this principle. You are not responsible for your taakkul, but you are responsible for your tasdik. It is very important difference. It's under your free will and you are responsible for it. So we created, hani created derken yanlış anlaşılmasın değil mi? We develop 4T model and we take psychoeducation to our patients with this model. Your tahayyül, it's just your image. It is devoid of free will and you are not responsible for it. Tasavvur, it's a design. It's devoid of free will and you are not responsible for it. Thought, sometimes devoid of free will and sometimes not, but you are also not responsible for it. Tasdik, it's a just judgment. It's under your free will and you are responsible for it. So how is an imagination process, thinking process, and action process. So it's a quote from Nursi. Just an image of unbelief or conception of envisioning, unbelief is not unbelief, while image of misguidance is not misguidance. So, to reasoning and reflecting on misguidance is not misguidance. Both imagining and fancying and concepting, and you can say tasavvur, and supposing and reflecting, reasoning, are different from the reasonable confirmation. They are free to an extent. They do not listen to the faculty of will. They are not included among the obligation of religion. But confirmation is not like that. Is dependent on a balance. And it is hülasatül hülasa, all process. Yes, an OCD. For example, it is one of the symptoms of our patients. For example, he had a obsessive intrusion about fracturing the boy's neck. So we make psychoeducation to him, and we use his symptoms with our model. So fracturing the boy's neck as an image, going to this place and yelling him and fracturing his neck, and it's just a design, detailed imagination, tasavvur, and it is devoid of free will, and you are not responsible for it. Even you begin to reasoning about, is it moral and justice to fracturing an innocent person's neck? You are not responsible for it too. But if you decide and accept or reject the idea of fracturing an innocent person's neck, it is under your free will, it will be, and you can take an action after that. Defining cognitive process within Guardalop hierarchical model, I propose that 4T is an efficient model in differentiating certain aspect of cognition as an imagination, conception, and reasoning from confirmed thoughts that would turn into behavior and build the character. So the second one, explaining the source of obsession, and it is also a hard one actually. Uh, I um, I hypothesize that some of our resistance in psychotherapy that we couldn't get the fulfillment answers to this question to our patients because it's very normal question actually. They have curiosity about the sources of obsession. In our tradition, in the writings on Nursi, we have three kuvve. They are kuvve-i ruh, power of spirit. Maybe we can call it drive theory of ilminnes. And we have kuvve-i şehviye, power of desire. Kuvve-i gadabiye, power of anger. And kuvve-i akliye, power of intellect. So as you all know, ifrat, tefrit, and sırat-ı mustakim. We have very important three conception. So in tefrit, kuvve-i şehviye, it's greed. Depression. But ifrat, we have greed. But the sırat-ı mustakim, to move towards our needs. And also in kuvve-i gadabiye, for example, ifrat is psychopathy. Tefrit is cowardice. And sırat-ı mustakim is self-protection. And kuvve-i akliye, ifrat is demagogy. Tefrit idiocy. Yani bu ahmaklık oluyor. Sırat-ı mustakim, to distinguish between right and wrong, to compare and synthesize. So how it works? They are animalistic part of us. They are always awake and work. They have our energy. They do not have any moral value, and they all want satisfaction. It is very important etiology, I think, and also to believe in Satan is very important etiological understanding. We use both of them actually during our psychotherapies, and we call it 3K model. And it is Merabit bin Nefs consciousness theory of ilmin nefs. And anlatmaya gerek yok, görüyorsunuz. As you all see and guess. Evet. It's our journey from body to the spirit. Journey of wise person. So everybody, consciously or unconsciously, begin in nefsi emmare, and if they use this kuvve in right way, and in the way of, in the scope of Quran and Sunnah, it brings you to the concurrent self, nefsi mutmainne. And you remember this. So, kuvve-i şehviye and gadabiye creates our tahayyül and our tasavvur, and in our mind we focus on them and take our decision by using our heart. Actually, to take reference to our values. So it's very important that we have values and we have faith in our heart, because it take decision by taking reference to them. So the last one, so center of confirmation, it's our hearts. So we tell our patients like this, kuvve-i şehviye gadabiye, but some of them we use Satan. Yani direkt şeytan dediğimiz hastalar da oldu. Kuvve-i şehviye gadabiye dediğimiz hastalar da oldu. Dini OKB'si belirgin olanlarda, yani which our patients had scrupulosity, and on religiosity obsession cases, we use Satan very easily, but we had some harm obsessions, and they are not defining themselves exactly a very religious person. We use this kuvve instead of Satan. But the kuvves and Satan are the same. It's also a discussion in our classic tradition. So it is very important. They sense doubt and unwanted desire or unwanted anger, and they send their urge to our heart. If our heart accepts it, we can implement it. But if it didn't accept it, these doubts, unwanted desires, and unwanted anger comes through our mind. It is very interesting etiological explanation. şeytandan ya da kuvvelerden gelen uyarıları kalp kabul ederse eyleme geçiyor. Ama etmezse bu kognitif proses gerçekleştiği için biz bunu zihnin alanında görmüş oluyoruz. Bu çok enteresan bir izah yani. Yani şeytan kognitif prosesleri tahrik edebiliyor. Eyleme geçiremiyor ama içeriklendirebiliyor. O içerikleri kabul ederseniz eyleme geçersiniz zaten. Yaparsınız yani ahlakınızın bir parçası olur. Ama yapmazsanız o zaman bunlar obsession haline alıyor. Yani bir şeyin intrüzyon olması için kalbiniz tarafından kabul edilmemesi lazım. Bu farkı anlatabildim mi acaba? Bu şeyde? İngilizce'de anlatabilmiş miydim bunu ben? Tamam. Bu da benim şu anda geliştirdiğim obsesyon. Tam anlatabildim mi? And so OCD patients confuse imagination, conception and reasoning with confirmation. The main idea is this yani. Tamam mı? OCD patients confuse imagination, conception and reasoning with confirmation. So we are trying to differentiate it by using this psychoeducation. By the help of entity of heart. If we differentiate heart and mind, we can tell our patients that your fate is in another place and your mind process in another place. So you can take automatically diffusion to your mind. These cognitive processes do not belong to your heart and will not cause an action. So, how did we implement it? In cognitive behavioral treatment of OCD model, and as you all know, this is classical CBT model. In education part, in normality of intrusions, cognitive restrictions, and alternative interpretation of obsessions, correcting dysfunctional beliefs, in all this part, we use this psychoeducation and some quotes from Nursi. After psychoeducation of cognitive model of OCD, we explain 4T model as a hierarchical model of intrusions according to their existing mechanism in mind. Hierarchical is very important concept in this case, as you guess. Evet, for example, şimdi bu Blamsmi miydi? Blamsmi miydi değil mi? Küfür, hakaret demek bizdeki şeyin karşılığı. Human Hoca makes joke my pronunciation about this. Blamsmi. Blamsmi. Tamam. Allah razı olsun. Cezakallah. A blasphemy word to prophet or Allah. It's just tahayyül. Bilal hocam neydi? Blasphemy. Blasphemy sentences, aggressive action, concepts to prophet or Allah. It's just a tasavvur and detailed imagination. For example, you can make reasoning, is it moral and justice to blasphemy towards prophet or Allah? And it is also devoid or sometimes not, sometimes devoid of free will, but you are also not responsible for it. But if you decide to reject or accept the thoughts of blasphemy words to prophet or Allah, it makes you responsible for it. As some of you know, it's an also specific intervention that you tell your patients that I find very easy treatment of OCD and I can give to you, but just do me a favor. Tell one blasphemy word towards of Prophet or Allah, and they reject it suddenly. So you use this experience that if it comes from your heart, you will accept it, but you reject it. And so yes, and then another OCD symptoms, and it is another symptoms. It's very common OCD symptoms, as you all know. And we collect two types of data, qualitative and quantitative data. Yes, bu heyecanlı yerine geldik bu sonuçlara. Şimdi one case diagnosed OCD, 24 years, and in our study, these patients is also chronic OCD patients. So they take lots of treatment, but they had still severe OCD symptoms. 24 years OCD. Treated both pharmacotherapy and psychotherapy but didn't benefit. Started psychotherapy without medication because drugs lead to inattentiveness of professional life. Tabi burada yani we did it in Cerrahpaşa psychiatry. So we were communicating with our psychiatrists. So 40, and after this treatment, he told, 40 was rational. I realized that my imagination is not related to my fate. And after we use this model, you see, yes, that one. And the other one, 11 years treated pharmacotherapy but experienced relapse, started psychotherapy with rearranged medication. I was impressed by 40 model. I used to try to control my feelings and thoughts before learning this. I understood that what matters is behavior. What will be responsible for is what I execute. And also I should say, we didn't ask them that was the 40 model is educational or is beneficial to you. We just asked them that what is the best thing in this treatment that benefit for you. And the other one, when you explained 40 by simplifying the terms, I was blessed to understand the difference between imagination and confirmation. I used to mix them up. When I first visioned that I was breaking the boy's neck, I look at my hands, whether it was for real. Now I know this is merely an imagination. And the other one, when I learn about 40, I figure out that the things passing through my mind is just an imagination, they are not real. And so, clarification of the difference between obsession and normal thoughts with 40 model, explaining the source of obsession, 3K model, explaining the process of formation of obsession, 40 and 3K models. So, Nursi's İlmün Nefs cognitive theory represents a comprehensive perspective of Islamic tradition regarding human psychological structure. He avoids narrow classification and uses detailed approach. He analyzed the nuance for decision-making process of cognition. So the major difference between modern cognitive therapy and İlmün Nefs is that Nursi's İlmün Nefs contains conceptualization that enable us a more detailed and refined analysis to cognitive process. I'm sorry that I tell her. And this is also my doctoral thesis, Effectiveness of Religious Psychoeducation Integrative Cognitive Behavior Groups Therapy in Treatment of Patients with Religious Obsession and Compulsions. And I change a little bit this model, as you see. I begin to prefer tevehhüm. It is very similar with automatic thoughts, tevehhüm. And the difference between tevehhüm and tasavvur, tevehhüm is more similar with thoughts, but in tevehhüm you don't have any clue about the rightness of it. Yani öncülleri sağlam olmayan bir çıkarım gibi tevehhüm, öyle zihne pat diye gelen. O yüzden otomatik. Bunu da why I prefer this, I tried this model in cleanliness OCD. Temizlik OKB'lerinde tahayyül ve tasavvurun çalışmadığını fark edince, onlar da tevehhüm oluyor çünkü. Yani bulaştı mı bulaşmadı mı şüphe. Bu DOPT meselesini anlamak için tevehhüm daha yarayışlı bir kavram. So I prefer tevehhüm to conceptualize DOPT obsessions. Vehim, tevehhüm. And these are the same. As you see. Yes. And this is our new model. Evet. Tasavvurun yerine. Hatta bir hastada 5 yapacağım demiştim. Hatırlıyor musun? Sonra tekrar 4. Önce 5T olsun diye düşündüm ki sonra çok uzadı. 4 enough yani. 4 bile çok da. Yes. Aynı anda birkaç dili sizin için. Just only for you. Bilingual, being bilingual very hard. Yani. Multiplex too. And we conceptualize that. Yani belki şöyle. These are the OCD symptoms that we use in our model. So as you see, maybe autogen obsessions we can conceptualize this by using tahayyül. Yani tahayyül, imagination, it's also enough for autogen obsessions. But reactive obsessions, we need tevehhüm. And maybe the main point is that. So, yes. So, that's hop. Bunlar. This is the bu bizim tezin yapısıydı. Bunları. Sadece şurayı göstermiş olayım. The result of our thesis, except that 40 produce better insight with moderate effects. Şu yani in one group our intervention with classical CBT, and the other group we had CBT plus 40 model. So we are trying to understand the difference between our intervention. So we had only 3 weeks for 40 model. And expect that 40 produce better insight with moderate effect. In the weeks of 40 intervention, it was found that 40 was more effective than CBT in obsessive and compulsive symptoms and depressive symptoms in addition to obsessive beliefs. And these are the results of our thesis. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Sabrınız için, anlayışınız için çok teşekkür ederim.
Barakallahu feekum. Dr. Taha was very humble about his English, mashallah. He has a tawahum about weakness in English, but I can do tasdeeq of the strength of his language, mashallah. So with that, inshallah, mashallah, I'm glad that we had the time to expand on this, but that does leave little time for questions. So we do have, I would say, about 5 minutes to address some questions. If anyone has any questions, they can address them now. Bismillah.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. At first, I would like to thank you for your presentation. I have a commentary and a question. First of all, the multidimensional truth model is actually, I think, very basic and crucial point of view, and it's provide a very solid base for paradigm shift. So I think there should be more work on this topic. And about my question, you said that when we define human as a body and mind, and then we thought the patients. Sorry, my English also is not good. I'm just a bit nervous. Okay, when we thought the patients about that, your thought is not. I mean, do not pay attention your thoughts. And then you said that there is no place to go for the patients. And you know, in ACT and acceptance and commitment theory, we have this Shakespearean metaphor about this. Your inner world is a stage, and your emotions and thoughts are merely players. And you have an observant self, and you observe, and you just point attention wherever you want. So I wonder what's your critique about this self-understanding.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution, and it's a very important question. Actually, I begin to, during the psychotherapy, I begin to realize that when the case of OCD, we begin to do our intervention as ACT, not classical CBT. And this is very, very important and a nice metaphor that we use it. But as I understand, it is a pedagogical understanding. But in the real theoretical level, ACT also don't have any answer about entities. And it is like that to convince our patients to yes accept this. Yani, don't come so much. Accept this and go together. Yani bence çok kritik bir nokta zaten. Türkçe de söyleyeyim hani İngilizceyi anlamayan olursa. Yani yani en kritik nokta orası ama işte gene bir el çabukluğu yapmak gerekiyor. Yani bir hasta gerçekten samimiyetle teorik bir soru sorarsa bu entiteler nerede? Yani tamam analoji çok güzel ama analoji de ikna edici. Yani aslında şöyle insanlar neden ikna oluyorlar? İşlevsel buldukları için yani. Lots of people convince with this interpretation by they are thinking that it is very functional understanding. But if someone decide to theoretical tutarlılık nasıl demek lazım? Theoretical consistency, they can ask that where is these entities? Yani. So we don't have any answer by all this CBT paradigm. But in our religion, we can differentiate it from the other. And yani heart is a very, very, very main concept to understand this vesvese or işte scrupulosity process yani. Bir cevap oldu mu acaba? Tamam. Çok sağ olun.
Assalamu alaikum. I have two questions. My first question is about meditation and mindfulness. They prescribe that for OCD patients, but wouldn't that make the obsessions worse because you focus on the thoughts that cause you to obsess? And my other question is, I have a friend who's a clinical psychologist.
Let me understand first one.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question?
Like mindfulness and meditation, they prescribe that to OCD patients, and presence, being present. But wouldn't that make the obsessions worse because you're focusing on your thoughts? So don't you? I mean, shouldn't the goal be to get you away from those thoughts? And then my other question is,
let me answer first one.
Okay. Right,
It's enough for me. Firstly, in our intervention, we didn't use mindfulness or meditation, but theoretically, it's a very important question. But for example, in ACT, when we do this intervention, we don't use it to focus on thoughts. We are just doing that to be consciousness about our thoughts and to take distance from them, and to see and to take this. To take this distance. So, to see is not to accept it. The main point is this. So, if the patients understand this, it is not a problem. But it's a nice discussion that mindful and meditation methods are beneficial or could have some harms during the psychotherapy. It's a big discussion.
Okay, my other question is, what do you think of Ayurvedic medicine? I have a friend who's a clinical psychologist, and he sends people that he can't help to Kerala in India, and he claims that they have methods to cure disorders like OCD. Because OCD, I mean, cognitive behavioral CBT works, but not for everybody. A lot of OCD patients don't respond to that, so he sends them to Kerala for Ayurvedic intervention. So, what are your thoughts on that?
Hikmet,
I was telling this same. Yeah, I agree about it. Actually, and in empirical studies, CBT, and I mean. When I'm saying CBT, I mean ACT and metacognitive psychotherapy too. They are all works OCD. They are the best, but they are not enough. And in empirical studies, as we know. So we are trying to understand why they are enough. They are not enough to cure this very resistant psychopathology. So we should find new ways. For example, our model trying to find one of this, and it's open area and waiting for researchers.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Very good. So we have just, I think, 1 minute, not even a minute, but then we have a break. So I actually wanted to ask, as a question to follow up, an interesting sort of quick question that in all of the work, and I think you've expanded on this in the past, working with those who claim to be blasphemous, have you ever had an experience where you told them to make a statement and that they did respond? And then how do you ask that question? Because this is something that some of the therapists ask the religious consultant that, okay, I accept this idea, but it's for me, I'm very sensitive. I don't want to have my client say it, or if I do, how do I do that specifically?
Yeah, it's Alhamdulillah, I didn't experience yet. And actually, I don't know what I'm going to do if it's happening. Yeah, I tell myself that should I take this risk now or not? Maybe you should before to do this intervention, we should do very very deep empathy to our patients and to understand his or her character and to aim of them. And actually, it's my hypothesis, but OCD patients are the last person that will say these words. And they are the most distant person to do this. So by using this etiological understanding, I trust Allah and I do this intervention.
But you don't put pressure on them. And
No.
You had a long relationship with them before you get to this
exactly.
point, because of which,
It's very important.
Barakallahu feekum, and with that we'll conclude the session. Jazakumullah khairan, Dr. Taha, and with this then we have a 20-minute break until 4:20, and then reconvene inshallah for the final session. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum. Subhanallah bihamdihi. Subhanakallahumma bihamdik.